Hi guys, Ashley here, also known as Ashley Fan. I'm back today with another video, and I know I've been absent, but I'm really working my ass off at my job to get these hours in, so you get the point. But I do plan on Sunday and Monday, since I'm off, to try to get my AJ Lee and Nikki Bella videos out the way, so I could just get the relief off my chest. I can start talking about other stuff. Like I actually want to talk about, and I want to make a video about Negan because a lot of people seem to not like him or liked him when he was a villain at the time, and I've been rewatching a lot of The Walking Dead lately, specifically with Negan in these episodes, and I just want to give my opinion because I honestly really love Negan as a villain, and I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He's one of my favorite actors, and he's just so fine. So I just want to talk about it, give my opinion on it, try to talk about something outside of teen dramas or anything else. And I also want to talk about Dawson's Creek because I've recently just stopped watching season 2. I've stopped watching the show entirely, and I just want to talk about why I feel like this show just doesn't hit. So expecting a video about Dawson's Creek coming out sometime. But let's get into Walking Dead Dead City. This show, oh my god. A lot of Walking Dead fans seem to either really think this show doesn't have reason to exist, or I see like people saying it's very good and they can't wait to see season 2. And me personally, if you ask me where I fall in on this category, is I feel like it doesn't really have a reason to exist. They're not telling us anything really new, or like nothing really new to follow with these characters, or anything like a flashback type of story. Is this entire season was just a search and rescue mission to get Herschel, a character that we don't know anything about. How can we feel any sympathy for him getting kidnapped if I don't care about his character? Like, that was a punch in the stomach by just having them feel like we're gonna care about Herschel because he was kidnapped. Like, no, I don't care about him. And they didn't really do a good job by having me like Maggie. Like, Maggie was really, really unlikable in this series. I feel like she was just doing nothing. She was so monotone and like so like I just feel like Lauren Cohan, I think that's the real name. I just feel like she just wasn't really feeling this show. I feel like the dialogue was very vague and like just like they're all over the place. Like, I feel like they're not really saying anything not interesting as of like boring, but like interesting as like something new. Like, these characters are not saying anything new about where they've been or anything. Like, I feel like it's really weird that it doesn't even feel like an apocalypse in New York. And we don't really see much of New York anyway while we're here. All we get is just shots of them walking in streets or buildings. Like, what am I looking at? How is this New York if I'm barely looking at it? Like, I don't know, maybe they lied about that. Maybe they didn't shoot this show in New York because it sure as hell doesn't look like it. But like, yeah, like, they're not telling us anything interesting. I think someone said this is taking place 16 years after the season finale of The Walking Dead. So it's like, okay, what the fuck has Negan and Maggie been doing for the last 16 years? Like, what? Like, they didn't really tell us anything new. Oh my god. So I think that's the main reason, is that a lot of the episodes are just really dull to get through. Like, I didn't think the pilot was bad. I thought it took a minute to get interesting until she ran into Negan. That's when things got really interesting. But then episode 2 was boring. I don't even really remember what happened in episode 2. Oh, they met those people. The only real part I like episode 2 was when Negan said knock knock, who's there, and then he said no, I said knock knock. I thought that was pretty interesting. I want to get to him and Maggie in a minute as characters. Just wait a minute. But yeah, like, the episode's really dull. The only real interesting episode that I liked was probably 4 and 5. They were like really interesting, mainly because of Negan and his little weird dynamic with co-ed, the bald-headed man. That's pretty it. I really feel like these episodes were just hard to watch because not really much was happening. Like I said, nothing new. And I'll keep saying it because I feel like this is what the problem was. So let's get into, I want to talk about the villain real quick, co-ed. So let's talk about this villain real quick. So First of all, he's a boring ass villain. The only thing, he doesn't really have no real villain mannerisms, no real villain tactics. This guy is living and thriving off of his insatiable obsession with Negan. He's so in love with Negan. He's in love with how he talks, how he walks, how he does his thing. He's in love with Negan, and he is trying his best to find anybody who might know where Negan it might be hiding, where Negan might be staying. He's obsessed with Negan, and I feel like, and them telling us why he's obsessed with Negan is because, well, it turns out this guy was in the sanctuary before, way before we saw Negan. He was in the sanctuary with Negan and the Saviors, and the reason why Negan kicked him out is because he took it way too far by killing a female. And we all know Negan doesn't like killing women. He mentioned that. He doesn't like killing women. He doesn't enjoy it. Men, he could do it all day, but women, he just feel like it's a no-no for him. But... Sorry, had to sneeze. Yeah, so it turns out he was in the sanctuary the whole time, but that's like a huge continuity error because he said he didn't know where Negan was until now, but it's like you knew he was in the sanctuary the whole time, so what the hell have you been doing? Sorry for sneezing. I'm not gonna remake this video, so I'm gonna keep the sneezing in. So, back to what I was saying. Just this guy say he didn't know where Negan was, but he knew that Negan was alive this whole time. It just don't make any sense because Negan was wanted for killing 5 men, and the reason why he killed them was very justifiable because they tortured and sexually assaulted his wife, and to the fact that he had to send her off on a train to go somewhere, and he hasn't seen her since. So she can be dead or anything because he decided to kill 5 men that tortured her, and I feel like that's so very justifiable. Why do they want to execute him for doing something that is just so disgusting? I think it's stupid. I feel like that's such a dumb reason to bring Negan back into a show, is because he's wanted because he killed 5 men who deserved to die. I feel like that's so lame, such a lame way to bring Negan back into a spin-off. But the co-ed, he just was not an interesting villain. I was getting really sick and tired of his obsession with Negan because it just didn't make any sense for him to talk about, because Negan was talking about him as if he just met him and then that's how it all went down, but he didn't tell Maggie that he was part of the sanctuary. We didn't know that until the co-ed said something, and I just feel like that was just such an continuity error because it doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense when Negan had to fight everything. Like, this guy was never ever mentioned, but he said he's been looking for Negan ever since that day. Negan's been at the sanctuary. Where have you been for the last 16 years? Hiding? You disappeared off the planet of Earth and then you decided to come back when he's a wanted man? It just doesn't make any sense. Him as a villain makes absolutely no sense. And I just feel like this was just such a huge continuity error because it just doesn't make sense. I can't stop thinking about it ever since I finished the season today. I'm thinking like, how does this make any sense? And the last thing I'm going to talk about, and then I'm just like going to get into my final thoughts, is Negan and Maggie as characters. Honestly, I feel like Maggie she wasn't doing it for me as a character. I feel like she didn't really bring anything new to the table, nothing really to learn, or nothing. Like, I feel like it was just, I feel like the show was mainly about her, but it was really about Negan. Like, he had the interesting lines, the interesting dialogue, he had interesting dynamics, he had the interesting storyline to tell. I really feel like the whole search and rescue was not really about her show, it was really about the co-ed finding Negan. And that's the problem. I feel like, why did the writers put them together if they just don't seem to, like, they're not meshing off each other in a way that maybe fans expected them to. I'm just not really feeling this dynamic. I'm not really feeling the team. And I feel like if their intention was to try to make this into a friendship, it completely failed because Maggie would never look at Negan other than someone who killed her husband. And I'm getting really sick and tired of her obsession over Negan and what he did that night. I understand what he did to Glenn. It was completely disgusting and villainous. I get that. But like Negan, like her son said, it's been 16 years, Maggie. If you want to kill him that bad, you would have done it years ago. But if you're not going to kill him, then you need to come with terms with what happened that night. I don't know what they're going to do for her in season 2, but I feel like maybe that's what her arc should be. Coming to terms with trying to forgive Negan about that night. Like Negan said, maybe it ain't always, especially in The Walking Dead, I guess it ain't always black and white. Sometimes it ain't gray, because Negan and them, I say Negan, Rick and them have all done things that people will say, well then how does that make them right and make Negan wrong? Like, Negan has a point. How many times have you killed someone that they lost a loved one? Like her killing Gregory, like that was her killing him, exiling him like that on a rope, was completely shouldn't have been to that extreme. I know that was actually in the comics book, but the reason that they gave him in the show was lame compared to in the comics. That he actually tried to kill Maggie with poison, but in here I think she just exiled him because he had a kid accidentally killed. Like that's lame. That's no reason to hang anybody. Like, so how would that make? So I guess it makes her more of a hero, and it makes Negan a villain, even though his reasons for killing Abraham and Glenn were justifiable too. They killed They killed men who were innocent, who probably were innocent in their sleep, taking people out unfairly in their sleep. How does that make Rick and them right? That don't really make them right, in my opinion. That kind of make them look a little bit like villains. But Negan is wrong for having a point. For you kill one of mine, and I'm gonna kill one of yours. I feel like that was very a good reason and very justifiable, but I understand that Glenn was a fan favorite and Abraham. That's why those deaths hurt. And that's why people have a lot of grudge over Negan, because those deaths hurt. But I think what Maggie needs to do is to come with terms with it, because if they're going to keep this whole she hates Negan, hates him, she wants to kill him, and she ain't going to do it, I'm tired of it. Because in the end of season 11, she said that she can't forgive him. And he apologized. He said he is so sorry for what he took from her and Herschel. Because if it was the other way around, if that was Lucille, we all know that he would have been on hell bent for revenge. So he understands. And I thought they left on a good note, not being friends, but him finding his way of becoming a good man, and her finding her way on coming to terms with Glenn. But in here, it's like they completely forgot those arcs in season 11 of Walking Dead. Completely forgot those arcs. So I'm doing Maggie. I hope in season 2 they give her something interesting, because sis was not eating the plate, and Dead City this honestly did not feel like her show. Let's talk about Negan, the lovely Negan, Daddy Jeffrey D. Morgan. Let's talk about Daddy Jeffrey D. Morgan. I love Jeffrey D. Morgan, and I love Negan. I don't talk about them much on this channel. Maybe I'll start making videos of my favorite characters, and you'll see Negan definitely on a video. But let's talk about Negan. Honestly, he was more interesting than Maggie. That's a no doubt. I like what they did with him in here. So it's gonna be very interesting seeing if they're going to take him down another villainous path that he can't control, because the co-ed and this lady wants him to take over a group. And I think it would be interesting if they try to make him go back to his old ways as Negan. I think that would be very interesting. It would be interesting, but I feel like that's 10 steps back from where Negan has grown from season 7 as a character. He's one of the most complex characters in The Walking Dead, and I feel like after Rick left, he was the only thing that kept me watching. He was the only thing interesting about season 9 and the only thing interesting about season 10. he kept me watching. If it was Daryl, Carol, or any of that, I'm sorry, I just didn't care for. I didn't care for the whispers. I only cared about Negan. Like you guys know, I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and I love me some motherfucking Negan. So yeah, I honestly found the Negan and co-ed stuff to be interesting, even though I feel like it's in a continuity era about him being in the sanctuary the whole time. The co-ed being with the saviors, even though I feel that's in continuity era. But I'm really curious to see what this dynamic is going to become in season 2. Like he's the only thing worth watching in season 2. So yeah, like just seeing if he's ever gonna get if the Marshal might eventually get him back and turn him in, like his dynamic with Jenny, like all that stuff was interesting, and I've always loved his dynamic with children. I thought it was the most interesting thing in The Walking Dead, besides his growth, that he always has amazing dynamics with the kids because he was a gym teacher. So yeah, Negan's the only thing worth watching. The only thing I would say they took away from him was that he wasn't really funny in here. And usually, like as Negan's usually funny, he also has something funny to say. He's always trying to cry, always trying to laugh to keep from crying type of guy. He's always trying to like lighten up the mood with his funniness, and I just feel like it wasn't really a lot of that in here. It wasn't really a lot of that. The only, like I said, the only good line he had was knock knock, who's there? And he was like, no, I said knock knock. And then he was like, the next time they come here, it's gonna be a fucking hurricane. That was his only real good line. But Jeffrey still had great dialogue, and he was still good with his mannerisms and his facial expressions and his body language. But he didn't feel like Negan, if you get what I'm saying. He didn't feel like Negan. And I think all that has to do with the writing and the scripts. They completely took away these characters' mannerisms by forgetting forgetting everything in The Walking Dead. To me, it felt like that. So my final thoughts, I feel like this show had a reason to exist. I will honestly give it, if you ask me out of 10, like a good 5, because Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Actually, I'll give it a bonus because I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan, like a 6 out of 10, because I like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and I feel like Negan was the only interesting thing about this entire show. If I go back, I'll just literally go to his parts. I don't care about anything if it's not Negan. So I think what they should have done was just gave Negan a prequel show. I feel like that just would have been way more interesting to see more of Negan. I would have been way more interested in seeing Jeffrey going from how he was with Lucille, and then making his way up to the Saviors, as leader of the Saviors and a cult leader. I think that's what they should have done, because this was just not a great idea. They didn't think this out, and it was just very rushed. So, but I will be tuning in for season 2. Season 2 probably won't be getting into like summertime. So I will be tuning in for season 2. But I'll let the Walking Dead fans and writers know one thing. If they think about turning him and Maggie into a relationship or any sort of love story, they're going to hear from me so bad that they're going to want to not write any shows anymore. That, I don't feel like it's going that way, but you never know with these TV show writers. They get so bored, they want to create love stories with enemies to lovers, and I feel like this is an enemies to lovers love story that y'all don't even do it. Don't even do it. Don't even do it. I think that's just doing a little bit too much. So that was my opinion about Walking Dead Dead City. Tell me how you feel about the show underneath the comments, and look out for more videos coming soon on Sunday and Monday. Thanks, guys.